work session for August for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the City of Fayetteville. I'd like to ask Alderman Bryant to say a word of prayer, and we'll get into our agenda.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you this day to come back and do the city's business. God, we just pray you be with each one. Pray, Lord, you be with each one of our employees that might be out of work for whatever reason. God, just pray you be with our employees and look over them and take care of them. Lord, we just pray that you keep them safe. God, we just pray that our citizens that we represent, Lord, that we'd always do the very best we can to represent our citizens as a whole. I just pray that you'll bless each one that's out here this morning. Pray, God, that anything we would do would be pleasing to you in your sight. We thank you, God, for this food that's been prepared this morning. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Start our agenda A, review of 7/8/2021 work session minutes. You have those in front of you. Any corrections, deletions, additions?
I didn't see any.
If not, we'll enter those in the record. Next, review of the 7/15/2021 special called work session minutes. That was for Mr. Collins' review. Anybody have any additions, corrections, deletions on those? No, we'll enter those in the record. We don't have any requested reports or action requests. We'll go into our department reports. I'll ask Mr. Plunkett to come up for Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. North Street project was bid. The bid come in at $1,319,511. Coming out of the Public Works Committee, they asked for a 15% contingency put on top of that, which brings the total to $1,517,438.
We're very pleased with that bid, and even with the contingency, just a little bit over what we originally estimated.
Just a little bit, yes, sir. Main Street, Core Engineering gave us a price of $15,000, and I think our Public Works Committee recommended that come out of the bond fund. Liberty Road, street light, caution, stop light. We're working with Croy on that. They're under contract with us to do our engineering work. They have engineers on staff that can do this. They are letters seen in the packet from where the traffic studies were done and where it wants the traffic light. Mulberry Road should be completed next week, and they're moving from there down to Adams Street and start that just as soon as they get through. Garbage truck. I got an email this morning. The maker of Load-All, which is our vendor for garbage trucks for years and years, have closed their doors. We've got parts ordered right now for one of the trucks. It's roughly $10,000 just for parts. It's at Shockley's auto repair right now. It's fixed. The other truck we ordered they call it a DEF header. We ordered it 1st of May. I told the committee I thought it was March or April, but it was 1st of May from going back and looking. They said it'd be 6 months before it got here. So we're still 4 months out. They got one guy left at Load-All up there working. He sent this email to David yesterday afternoon. I got it this morning. And for $572, they can have us that part in 3 weeks per this letter. Now they said 6 months, but there's no guarantee on that. They just didn't come through my committee but I like permission to go ahead and pay the $572 or whatever it is, which is going to make this total part somewhere around $1,500 instead of the $900.
This is within your budget, isn't it?
Stacy, you got our figures on our sanitation this morning?
I don't have them with me, but I mean, it would be in your parts. I'm sure you've got $1,500 worth of maintenance supplies.
So,
I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
I'm good with it too.
Yeah, just go ahead and get it.
these garbage trucks are running on the prairie right now. We've pulled the whole truck out of the graveyard's what we call it, and we're starting to work on it today. Hopefully, if one goes down, it'll be able to go, because we got one left right now. And at the rate we're going, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do. I've even contacted other suppliers on different trucks, and they don't even really want to give you a price on a truck right now. And they won't even give you a delivery date till you pay them. They said they can't guarantee that.
Well, this email mentions semiconductors. I'm assuming there's still a semiconductor shortage in the United States. That was a problem for the auto manufacturers for a while. They had to shut down production on some plants that couldn't make vehicles because of their shortage of semiconductors.
It's some kind of, we've done replaced this part once on this truck, right after it went out of warranty. And here we are again, and now they can't find the maker, or they found the maker for it, but they evidently are shut down too. But they saying for that extra $572 that they'll make the part and have it here in 3 weeks.
Okay.
So,
We're going, unless, do you have any other items?
no, sir.
We're going back to the 3 items. Everybody except Alderman Allen was at finance the other day, so we spoke about the North Street drainage. We'd already budgeted that, and so we just need to take that to accept the bid, correct?
Yeah.
So we need to move that on to Tuesday night, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on the North Main drainage, we talked about the design fee from Croy of $15,000. Is the board okay taking that Tuesday?
Yes. I am.
And then, so then the third one is on the traffic signal for discussion, because Alderman Small spoke about it. We spoke about this. We have permission from the state to put a traffic light right at Liberty Road, and it would alleviate the congestion of trying to turn left out of there for the people in Wellsbrook and the people that live down that way. So is the board willing to go down the road of pursuing this? Because right now we're just talking about design work.
Correct.
Now, right now, we're talking about design work, but what we wanted to do as a committee, before we get to paying out a bunch of money on design work, or some money on design work, although I don't know what Crow is, we don't have an estimate yet. We don't know what this traffic light's going to cost, but we know it's going to cost more than what a certain amount we've got set aside. Stacy, what have we got set aside for this project
$92,400.
that we can use on this project if a board so desires? And that's some of the governor's money coming to the state, coming to us. So we have the 90-something thousand. We apparently have permission from the state, unless they've changed their mind since this letter came out. So we have all that in place. We have an engineering firm willing to do the engineering. The only thing we like is a difference in the cost. And we don't know what that difference in the cost is going to be until we get some numbers together. And then we'll have to decide, if we decide to go forward with it, where we're going to pull those funds from. So we wanted, as a committee, we wanted to bring to the whole board, before we went out here and started committing to paying an engineer quite a bit of funding to engineer this thing, because if a board's not willing to even entertain it, we don't want to spend out any money on engineering. So that it's a matter of information, but it's seeking guidance if the board wants to proceed with this.
Also like to hear if there's been any public opinion about a light there. I know there's been some, but is it going to be like a big study, gather resources, and then in 3 months' time get it up and turn it off like we have with the traffic signals here in town? We don't want to go through that either.
I just don't see the congestion ever getting less out there. No. I know that some people will be like, well, that's one more stop, but I mean, like right now, or maybe 30 minutes ago, at this time in the morning, you cannot turn left. You just cannot turn left.
And
All
it
the-
backs up Liberty Road too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
people coming in and people turning there to get to the other side of town as well.
And another thing should help on is the 110 intersection, the traffic backing up there.
That's true.
So we just wanted a consensus. I don't think we're not at a point, I don't believe we're looking for a vote on actually doing the light until we get a total number, but we just wanted a consensus. Is it okay to continue with the study with engineers? We just kind of need to know.
I would like to see this move forward.
Yeah, I'm for it. I'm for it.
Didn't you have an estimate you said the other night for?
Well, I was guesstimating up to
Okay.
Yeah,
150
yeah. See,
from where we could pull another 60.
From the manor when she was estimating it from.
Right, because the manor was roughly around 120.
I think that's right. I don't remember
Plus,
for sure.
maybe.
That's close.
120 was close, I think.
Yeah, that's close, and it's kind of like the same type as a turn lane in both of them, you know, so we don't know. I'm sure stuff's gone up, though. I'm sure it has.
Yeah, that
So we
was
just,
The grade and elevations out here would be more expensive. You know, the Goodman situation is pretty well level.
and drilling a hole to put those poles in will be, it's solid rock.
And they're probably going to have to be a lot longer poles too.
Yeah, the west side of the road going out, right-hand side going out, west side is solid rock, solid limestone.
Well, I know I used to live in Wellsbrook, and that was several years ago, and it was a problem then. So I know it's greater now. And then once we had that public hearing on the development out Liberty Road, all the residents at that time expressed that they would love to see a light there. So I would like to see the city go on and
And you still have Riverbend that has property that can be developed and houses built. There's a lot more people out there, so.
And that's where they cut off to get to that side and back
Absolutely,
to
they go the other way. That's
Right.
right.
So I guess if it's okay, we'll notify, can you notify Crowwood just to continue?
I'll contact Patrick after this
Study,
meeting.
whatever they got to do, and move on with it.
Anybody have any other questions of Mr. Plunkett this morning?
And we can use Crowwood because we've got them on, I don't know if it's a retainage or what it is, but we've got them anyway. And of course, they're professional services, so their services don't have to be bid.
Right.
And if we do the light, FPU knows that we're looking at doing that light, and I'm sure they'll install it, maintain it. But of course, we'll have to get a cost from them too. But Crow will do all that.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll go to the police department, Chief Howell.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have one request to move to the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, the cruise in downtown for September 11th. Also, just for notification with this, we would be shutting down here in front of the businesses at around 4 o'clock in the morning because that's where the bandstand sets up and everyone listens to the music. That's all we have for the police department.
Now, which street would be blocked off?
Market Street right here around Honey's, back this whole side.
Right.
It's at the trailer of the bandstand right over here at the intersection.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Everybody good with taking that permit on?
Yes.
All right. Anything else on police?
No, sir.
We'll go to the fire.
I would ask Ms. Stacy Roselle to speak on the financing for the purchase of the new fire truck.
All right. I was approached about the fact we all know that we've had problems with our fire engines and they're going to need to be replaced here real soon. So ultimately, the board has asked, how do we want to pay for it, to bring you a couple of options. So I've worked really we have 3 different options that I've got right in front of you. The first one would be a 3-year note. We have estimated the price with some of, excuse me, the sales reps that Chief Howell has already talked to, and $650,000 is, you know, the price that he thinks that we can purchase a truck and equip it. The last note that we did for the police Tahoes was at a 2.8% interest rate. We would expect interest rates to still be right around that area, but I'd rather figure high So I bumped it up for this estimate to a 3.2 interest rate. A 3-year note, a payment would be approximately $19,000. And since fire trucks do tend to have a little bit longer longevity than, say, the garbage trucks, I also presented a 5-year note where the payment would be $11,700 approximately, if depending on the interest rate. Your other option that you do have that we discussed in finance would be to pull that money from a portion of fund balance. If you remember a few months ago, I talked to you about a treasury note that we have with Raymond James that came up for renewal. The current balance on that treasury note, $658,000. And over the last quarter from April to June, we earned a whopping $40 on it. So that just kind of shows you what that money is making us or not making us right now. So that would also be another option. And the only part of that money that is, you know, even somewhat restricted is a portion of it is for capital purchases. A fire truck would fall under that restriction.
So we did have a discussion at finance. We spoke about those options. So as the chief spoke about, you're talking it could be 12 to 18 months out if you ordered one today, correct?
Very well could be, just as Director Plunkett was explaining. It's just almost impossible to get anything right now. It is hard. So it could be 12 to 18 months if you ordered one and had to put it on the assembly line. Now you could, I don't know if we'd be lucky, but there are a few coming down the assembly line. If they're not spoken for and we could get one that would fit our needs, you might better go that route, but there again, you're gonna have to be lucky.
So I think what we need is going into the board meeting next Tuesday is, number one, are we going to purchase a fire truck? Actually purchase it, number one. My opinion is the sooner the better. But that's just my opinion. It'd be a whole board. And number two is how do we want to pay for it? If we don't vote to purchase one, how do we want to pay for it? That's our two options.
What was the recommendation coming out of finance as far as if we were to purchase?
To bring it to the whole board for discussion.
Okay.
We didn't really, I don't think we really, I don't know.
I don't think there was an actual
There
recommendation.
was not an actual recommendation. I was kind of leaning toward that Raymond James thing that she's talking about. Basically, there's no difference in that and it coming out of capital fund because it's all capital anyway. I mean, if you look at it that way, so I mean, it'd be the same difference if you just went over here and transferred that much out of capital funds. There's no difference there really, but I don't think we're doing any good with this Raymond James thing. I really don't. If we decide to go that route, just pay for it. I'd rather just pull that out and be done with Raymond James and go and do it that way. The only downside I see to financing is it's not really a bad downside. It's not big payments at all. We will have those bond payments kicking in about 2 years.
In June of 20, because in May of 2022 is when the police vehicle note is paid off. And if you remember, we deferred the principal payments on the $5 million bond until we got that note paid off.
So the note's going to be paid off in just a few months on the Tahoes. On that group. The first group of Tahoes we bought is going to be coming back pretty soon looking at replacing them on a cycle. I mean, we had them a long time. Because we got into the Tahoe business a long time ago. Right now, the way I'm seeing with the strong fund balance we've got, which is really strong, we're going to buy a garbage truck as soon as we can, probably. But that will come out of a completely different fund. That won't come out of the fund we're talking about right now. We got to figure some way to work through that. It'll come out of the proprietary fund. I'm just kind of, bond payments coming up, I'm just kind of leaning, personally speaking, just pull that Raymond James thing and buy the fire truck.
I'm good with that too. It's making so little money. Everything's making so little money now, and the saving side that I'm good with doing that with the bond stuff coming up. We're going to have a payment on. I'm good with that as well.
And if we don't act on it now, we may not even, well, I'm sure we got to put a deposit or something down. And if we don't act on it, I'm sure we're not the only ones out there looking at fire trucks.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And I think if we vote to do all this Tuesday night, and I think we should immediately get our name in the pot.
Absolutely.
Because this equipment business, and it's just not us, it's private. Roger, if I can tell you, you can't get parts. You can't, it's got where you just hard to do anything. So the sooner we get this going, the better off we'll be. We might get lucky and get one of those coming down the line right now.
Well, Chief Hal mentioned that, but is that one still available? The one that we can modify from? The one that was 540?
I do not know. I think it was 535,
Was it
I think,
five?
but I do not know if it's available or not.
And that's the one he said he could modify for the back end and the hoses as well.
Yeah.
And we spoke, it isn't just buying the truck, it's outfitting the truck too.
That's right.
Correct.
It's putting the equipment on the truck.
That's right.
So how does that work in regards to, like the last time we ordered a truck? I mean, do you put a certain amount down and pay the rest when it's done? Or how does on the...
Most of them are
There's a
deposit.
couple of things that go with it. Also, I found out the other day there was a company out of Louisiana. If they have to build the truck, once they start building the truck, there's also a visitation. You get to go down and visit the truck to make sure they're doing it exactly the way you were wanting. That's something I need to bring forward because one of the companies was wanting like $2,500, and I said, no, we got to do more negotiation than that. Because that's something else we'll have to look at as well when we bid this truck out. It's according to who you go with as well.
Well, the fund is in place, and the board votes for funding in place, and you just pull up funds as you have to. So I don't know how you do it, but I don't remember how we done the last one. I think we're fortunate that we feel like we're in a financial position that we just buy a truck.
I agree.
So carry that on to Tuesday night. So item number 2 is engine number 2. The reason why we're talking about number 1 is, Chief, you spoke to speak about, we have in front of us, we spoke to finance. You have a quote in here on the refurbish of engine number 2, which is at Brindley Mountain.
Yes, sir. Refurbing engine 2 was roughly $141,694 to refurb engine 2. We did obtain that at the beginning to give you, the board, some options to look at, either refurbing that one or buying a new truck. Honestly, that's at the board's will. If you would like to refurb engine 2, or which we may have engine 2 back. We've got a call maybe this week, maybe. It's been down about 6-7 weeks now. We're hoping to get it back, and we'll see how long it runs.
Do we have a spare truck?
Have engine 3 to 1998. Best truck we got, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, Eddie can tell you that on his vehicles.
It runs. I mean,
So I think that what the choice here was coming through, they come through finance with this too. The advantage to going ahead and getting this truck back on the road, you might say, is either to be able to keep it as a backup or sell it. Because they don't believe that we can sell it the way it is right now. We can't sell it.
we have to get it up and going,
Right.
operational so.
So if we can't even sell it, I don't see any choice but to fix it. And then make a choice on, do we keep it as a backup or do we sell it? And speaking, quite frankly, we don't want to sell a truck to anybody that won't work.
That's correct. And like I said,
Right.
hopefully be back this week. I hope.
Yeah. So I think to me, we're going to have to go ahead and get it back on the road and make a decision to sell it or keep it. And in that way, if we sell it to someone, it's been fixed up, it's been refurbished, and we sell it with a clear conscience. You know, that we've done everything we can to get it back up going. So that's just my thoughts.
Well, there's a pretty healthy list of all the things that will be done here.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's a good case to be made. It's a really good case to be made. If it gets back up in pretty good shape, the way things is going to be for a while is just to hold on to it for a while. And
If you refurb it, we would have a 1-year warranty on it, just like a new truck. And
Right.
if you see through the list, it should be a brand new truck, new interior, new transmission, engine, paint job, need new lights.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we discussed this in committee the last 2 months, I think. That's kind of the way we were leaning, but we knew we needed to send through finance first just to get the approval to
Right.
do the refurb.
so I guess the The budget, that was 140-something thousand, is that it right?
Just about 142,000.
So, Stacy, where would that funding come from?
It would just come from general funds.
General fund, just, all right.
But if we could recuperate some of that if we decide, if we choose so to sell it, to put toward back in. But I don't think we're going to get $100-something thousand back out of it, I'll be honest with you.
I'm just worried about, the shortages being long-term, not being able to get things repaired in the future. I would be interested in keeping it as a backup.
Yeah, I think that'd probably be a good plan to begin with, because in a completely different department, apparently we're down to maybe one garbage truck and hope it'll run till we get some more going. So this kind of shows us that we're gonna have to really think about our equipment and kind of, if we get a chance to have something to help back us up, I guess we better take that opportunity.
You want to say something? Come on.
That new truck you're buying, this refurb truck, it'll be running when this June's parked. You look at these garbage trucks, I'm pulling one out that's probably 80-something model, that still will run. I mean, it's warm on that, but it's still crank running. These new ones is sitting in the shops waiting on parts for 6 months. And paying people, to get these parts expedited, they're still 3 weeks out. So refurb this truck, we probably gonna be the best move you ever made.
It looks like they're gonna do a lot to it. Did you tell us what the timeline was? You might have, and I just missed
The
it.
timeline was at the beginning, 6 months. We won't get that now.
On rebuilding?
Yes, it won't be 6 months now. It could very well be 8 months to a year now, because it took us 7 weeks just to get a power steering pump.
So right now, we're down to that backup truck,
We're running old truck.
98 model backup. Okay.
That's the truck we got.
I think we're gonna have to start looking at things. I'm glad Mr. Plunkett brought it and we ordered extra tires, right? Did we got those, didn't we?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to look at a lot of things like that, just plan ahead.
So if we approve it, Chief, would we get engine 2 back until they went back and worked on it? Or they just gotta hold on to it for 8 months?
If it appears you're gonna approve it, I'll probably tell them to keep it there. Right now, they're replacing the front springs, rear springs. The frame was broke, the differential was shifted to the left. They're trying to straighten all of that out. But if it appears that you may be going this direction, I'll probably tell them just to keep it and start on it, since they've already got it there.
Just clarification. All right. Everybody good for carrying this on Tuesday?
I am.
All right. Third thing, Assistant Fire Chief. This was brought through committee and finance. Chief?
Yes, out of the committee, it was brought forth about having an assistant fire chief position in the fire department. One thing that I believe all of us noticed doing the interviews, one thing that hurt us with a lot of candidates is when they realized it would be them walking in and with no assistants under them. It's just a chief position, and that's it. I firmly believe this day and time, you have to have some type of assistant under you to do the job. The job itself has grown. All the training that they're required to do, it's rough on one person to try to keep up with all that. It's actually impossible. So bringing forth is asking for that assistant chief position. And my committee may have more to add to that.
Well, we've discussed this before. We visited it back before budget. But I do believe it's hurting us in recruiting for that department. I just think we need to change the structure.
I know it's tough on the money side, but I think we're to the point we need to do what we need to do to get everything straight and ironed out and move on. It's been a long time on fire, and I'm ready to do what we got to do to fix it. So I'm good with this.
I'd like to see it move forward to Tuesday night.
I am tell you, we've kicked this assistant chief around a while in the past, but situations has changed a lot. And we've been trying for a year, maybe, I don't know, to over a year to try to get a fire chief in place. If this is what it takes to make the plan work, have a assistant chief, and apparently it sounds like we're going to pull a chief from within the department. We got a chance of doing that, maybe them working together as a team. I like that better than the alternative of sitting here from now on and never being able to get somebody to come in here. because I think I made this statement, I know I made this statement in finance. Our codes require a fire chief. Just plain and simple. The codes require a fire chief. And you can go to the municipal codes, you can pull up the fire department part of it, and you'll see that where the code says we will have a fire chief. But we don't have a fire chief. Hadn't had one about a year now. We've had an interim, but that's not what the code's talking about. We need to get back, we need to get back under our codes. We need to try to put all this stuff behind us. We need to try to make this plan right here work. The committee supports it. Are we being given a choice here? I see two numbers.
That's what I was going to ask. We got here level 8.8 and level 8.9, so
that's the choice we've been given?
I don't know that it's necessarily a choice of what you would be given, it's just an estimate as to, what it would cost if we were to promote from within to assistant chief, what a likely figure would be.
So the board can choose level 8.8 or level 8.9, whatever we want to choose? We got a choice here?
Like I say, I don't know if it's necessarily a choice, or if it's just you add the position with a potentially up to a certain figure, depending on who would go into that position. We don't know. We could easily go way below this depending on who was hired.
Okay, I got you.
If we,
I can say
Who would be in that position?
we're going to hire
Okay.
Richard to be assistant chief, and it's going to cost us this dollar amount.
okay, just as a question for clarity, if we promote from within, that person that gets promoted up would have to have a replacement for that position as well, right?
Yes, you'd have a chain of movement inside the department.
Right.
So we'll come back and have to add another fireman or two.
We'd have to hire one.
Okay.
but that would be with what we already had budgeted. This would be an amendment for the assistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this would be the only position
Yeah.
added to.
Yeah.
You would just have to backfill a vacancy.
Yeah.
I think it's more to it than that. I believe that if we go this route, I might be wrong now, and we hire from within, this assistant comes from within, I believe that we're going to create another opening to where we will have to have another fireman. This is going to add one employee to the fire department. We do this.
Yes.
It is. It's going to add one.
Yes.
So
That is correct.
So if we do this, that position's got to be filled, right?
That's what we just said.
Does that mean we got to add a position, or is it automatically in the budget?
You just want
Yes.
salary will be all we're adding, is to this salary, because other salaries spoken for already. So.
Plus, you already have some lieutenants that may fill the captain position, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm straight now. I just want to be straight on that. I'm like,
Right.
That's what
And
I
so if you hired another fireman, it would just be within, it'd be like if one left and we just hired another one.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Well,
Alderman Hartman.
so we're creating one position. I tell you, to me, the positive part of this is, I don't particularly like spending money out, but I mean, we are where we are. But to me, the positive part of this is that we hire from within on both these, on the fire chief and the assistant from within. That means two more individuals is going to have to step up to captains or whatever. That's really a good thing, because right now, as small as our department is, they don't have where to go. There's not that many positions open. So this would open up either one or maybe two positions to where someone would have to step up into some position somewhere, probably, more than likely. We're not sure what it'd be, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I mean, I think that's a good thing.
And another reason I was interested in this is things have been going really well at the fire department
Right.
over the past several months.
Of course, if we approve this, it's not up to us.
Right.
Not even up to the committee on who gets those jobs. It's up to
Right.
whoever's filling city administrator positions. Who it's up to. It's not up to us on how that works. So I'm good with it. And I've got it straight now, kind of how it's going to work. I'm good with it.
Alderman Hartman, you're going to make a comment?
I do have a little bit of concern about this. I'm for this. I think we need to restructure. It is a good time for us to step back and try to get things back in line in all these departments. But, we kind of stumbled and didn't fill this fire chief position for different reasons, and now all of a sudden it's a rush, we gotta do it immediately. And hiring from within, maybe that gives these firemen, hope that we can get this back on track. But I would like to see some outside fire experience on the panel, because if we're hiring within and it's by people within and we're not going outside, it kind of looks like, okay, we're, just putting people into place. So I would like to see the panel broaden for the interviews.
Posted. The job posted, not just
Yes.
we hired from within and bump somebody up.
Up somebody up. I would like to see it opened up, and whoever wants to apply if they qualify for the position, and then maybe get surrounding fire chiefs to come in, or just some outside influence. It's not all done in-house. I think it would be a more fair way.
Any other comments?
I don't mind opening it up for everybody. We've done that. We've done that a couple of times. It doesn't matter to me, whoever's most qualified. The thing is, though, departments like that, they tend to promote a lot of times from within. I think that happens a lot in police and fire. I don't think that's unusual.
Well, I think MTAS will still be involved in this process still, right?
I haven't contacted Steve Cross, but I will, haven't actually spoke to him about this yet. He's been in a conference, but I'm going to speak to him.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's going to be opened up anyway. I mean, we have to open it more. We can't just go in here and say, well, we're going to do this, this, and this. It's going to have to, but what I was referring to, that once it's all shook out and said and done, it won't be this board that makes a decision on who gets those positions. It'll be whoever's in the city administrator. I mean, that's just how our charters wrote. So it's good ideas, though. Real good ideas.
Mayor, I'd like to go back to the Brindley Mountain quote for a moment. If you look, the expiration date was on 6/18. Just to bring it to y'all's attention, it has expired, but we will contact Brindley Mountain.
Yeah, we'll need to know, because if it changes,
We'll contact Brindley Mountain.
we have to have somebody Tuesday, we'd have to pass on it this month if we didn't have something. We need something firm, and we need to know how long the next quote would last for. Any other things from fire department? Any other questions of chief on fire department? All right, we'll go on to Parks and Rec, Mr. Ira Thompson.
Good morning.
Morning.
I believe one thing we have on there this morning is our grass that was brought up. Once I first got here, it was brought up, and then it was brought up again a couple of days ago. After talking to my staff, talking to my guys, and going out and looking at the fields, we kind of made a suggestion of Stonebridge, Father's Memorial, Camp Blunt, and the soccer complex, except for the field, because the field's going to need a professional to take care of that. Roughly about 60-70 man hours of mowing and weed eating. The reason why we said Stonebridge, Father Memorial, and Camp Blunt is right there in that same area, so there's not too much venturing out for a company to have to do, because it's right there. We have a lot of land, a lot of grass that needs to be cut, and most of our weed eating, if not all of our weed eating, is done right there in that area. Going up to the soccer complex, we went up there and talking to the gentleman who was up there the other day, we kind of got the idea that there is an extra strip of land back behind that factory that he said was ours. After talking to Mr. Eddie, he said it might be someone else's, maybe FPU's or something like that, but there's another 4 to 5 acres that's back behind the, it's like a dog leg back there in the back that has not been mowed, that we have to, probably have to take care of too, that we're thinking of right now. That's what I have, but also on here is the soccer complex. My email was put on here, so just go over it. Apologies. The soccer complex and the items that we'll possibly need for that soccer complex. You see that total down there is $21,900. That does not include, yesterday Ryan came back in and we had another conversation with him, and he was saying that we probably need a roller to roll the field to keep the field flat and level. And that right there is another $1,500. It's going to take, we're hoping that with this right here to be the end of it, but we're also gonna have to probably add more parking. I believe that it was said that across the street might be our land, and we're looking at that because there's gonna be a lot of parking up there, but that's all we got right now.
Yeah, it was discussed in rec committee and then came to finance about a breakout for the new soccer field, new soccer goals, backstop nets, game nets, field marker kit, regulator spraying, and a storage container for these items.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes, sir.
back to, well, we're going to go back on a lot of this, but
Yes, sir.
now we have a deed on that property. So there's no question as to who owns what. That deed will specify exactly what our property is, whatever the other 4 or 5 acres you're talking about we might own. We're only going to, as far as I know, we're going to only own what that deed says that came from Goodwin or Dyking. And we have a deed for that property. The city attorney can speak to that. This other part of the property that you're talking about, it might be ours. I don't know quite where that would come from. Do you?
As I remember it, what we acquired was just a rectangle.
It was a rectangle.
Because there's a larger,
Right.
there was a larger tract there, and my recollection is they just kind of split it down the middle almost. And
Yeah, so we have a deed for whatever we're responsible for maintaining. So whatever that other piece of property is you're thinking we would end up needing to maintain, if it's not ours, if it don't belong to ours to be used for recreation, it wouldn't be our responsibility.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, so that needs to be clarified.
and there are plats of
Right, it is. We got flats. We know what we own. And, of course, I'm gonna have some, is it okay to go back on one-on-one? I've got some questions on some of these. Is it okay to go back and ask them now?
In rec or another different?
All of it?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, since we're talking about the soccer complex.
Yes, sir.
Right now, the Public Works is bush hogging the big area.
Yes, sir.
So if we sign on to this bidding out, would Public Works still be maintaining that big area that's not being used, or would that be bid out also?
My understanding, that would be bid out. I'm gonna tell you this, when I first got here, Scott said something about bidding out grass, the mowing, and that lasted for about a week, and then it disappeared until the other day, it comes back up.
Well, I'll tell you what the background is on that. When you and I met, when you first came in.
Correct.
I mentioned the fact, if you remember, I mentioned back to you that you're coming in a bad, I don't know how to put it, but really without any manpower.
Yes, sir.
And it was really going to be difficult on all this grass to be mowed and all. And at that time, I didn't know it was going to have rain all summer.
Yes.
So I mentioned to you that you might want to think about at least considering that 1 year, talking to the committee or whatever about bidding out part of it. So then, that same day, I told Scott the same thing, and Pam was there when I talked to Scott about that on very same day. But the way I approached Scott with it was that he needed to approach you and see what you thought about it.
Yes, sir.
And I never heard any more about it, so I figured, well, that's whatever it is. But I guess, Eddie, are you wanting to give up bush hogging that big area down there at the soccer field? Should we pay to bid that out, or you want to continue to do it? You want to bid it out?
Yes.
So you're talking about then bidding out all the soccer
Yes, sir.
complex except for the field itself.
Yes, sir. The field itself needs to
Okay.
be a professional field
All
turf
right.
management
Okay.
specialist on it.
Yeah. So I got that clear.
Yes, sir.
On the Count Blunt.
Yes, sir.
Now is it 40 acres? Is that what's in Count Blunt? Does anybody know? John, you know what's out there? Maybe I'm way off on that, but anyway, no matter.
Just a big field.
Right now, Public Works is bush hogging, I think, the big area.
Yes, sir.
All right, on Count Blunt, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about the whole thing?
Right at 40 acres.
Are we talking about the whole area? Or are you going to keep on bush hogging the big part and we're just going to bid out the mowing part?
I think that if we bid it out, I think we should bid out all of it. I
Every
don't
bit
think
of
it
it.
should be bits and pieces. I think we should just bid it all out, because if it, alleviates them from having to get out there and gives them more time, man hours they can utilize somewhere else as well as rest in it.
So you're talking about the whole area?
Yes, sir.
Part of it be bush hog, part of it be mowed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The front and the back part.
All right. Now, the Stone Bridge and Father's Memorial, I know where all that is, so it's
Yes, sir.
not, I'm a little surprised you had Stone Bridge on there. I thought, but anyway, I just wondered if that Stone Bridge has to be really kept maintained really good. What I mean, it could fall in a cycle to where whoever you bid this out didn't get to it or something. So, but with as much traffic we got down there, I think we want to be sure that that really stays mowed good. So,
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I'm clear.
Yeah, I would prefer maybe bid out maybe Kiwanis or somewhere instead of Stonebridge. Because I'm like you, I feel like Stonebridge and Don Davidson, they need a lot more work than just mowing.
I'm just putting it out there. I just want to get in my head what we're talking about.
And we've still not got any bids, and I think we all got to come to agreement in the committee to bring it to y'all, is what grounds need to be mowed and bid out first.
How big is Kiwanis?
I'm not sure.
It's a long strip back there. If you talk,
Not
now,
since he's been
are
here.
you talking about the Kiwanis that's behind Ralph Askins?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a long strip back there.
Yeah.
Who's mowing that right now?
We take care of it right now. We maintain it back there right now.
That vacant field back there we're taking care of?
Yes, sir, all of it. The reason why we picked Stonebridge is because Stonebridge need someone to actually go down there and do the bushes and do the weed eating and cutting the trees back. And if we start doing that, then that right there adds on another 10 hours that the guys are back and forth, different equipment they're going to need, different accessories. So we need someone who's going to be professional, go down there and make it and beautify it. And that's just simply put it what it is, someone who can absolutely know about landscaping and how to get that going.
Yeah. Are we talking about just bidding out for the rest of the year?
Well, the only thing I think we were talking about bidding out, first, that's why I said we got to get back to the committee and start some discussions within, because we still got to come up with an agreement. That's a whole new different story. We won't talk about that in here now, but we've got to get to the when are we going to bid it? What season are we going to do it? What season are the schools going to do it for the soccer field? You know, for what season they're going to do Don Davis? But bidding out, we still got to keep that front of that soccer field. Remember, that's free play, and that was not our rules or anything. That's on the contract with Daikin. A lot of that has to be free play for anybody to come in and do what they want to do with it. Practice on, a lot. I don't know how many acres, Mayor, that was supposed to be free play, or what there is an area up front.
Are we
talking about?
I think it's the main field is the free play.
Yeah, one field. One of the fields has to be.
Okay.
And of course, whoever maintains the actual field itself is very critical.
Mm-hmm. That's got to be maintained very.
Whoever does that knows what they're doing.
That was spoken in committee, and Mr. Thompson says, you have to have a totally different
machines.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing about this bidding out is, are we talking about bidding out the rest of this mowing season, or
That's what I was going to ask. Are we talking about now, or are we talking about the future and what we got to do after this season is over?
What are we talking about here?
That needs to be clarified.
For me, I believe that we start after this season over. Right now, we're behind, but the guys are working right now and doing their due diligence with that. I think this right here is something that we plan on having for next year.
Okay.
Because right now we're kind of going towards the fall and the end of the season. My guys even talked to them yesterday. They're saying the grass is slowing down just a little bit.
Okay.
So I think it's something that we look forward to for this upcoming season.
Is that what the committee was thinking about?
I think so, but also the mayor had made a suggestion to get us a thing, I think, Stacy, from Eddie and Ira on what grass.
Yeah, just a list.
We never got a list.
Just a list for the board, so we know what.
What everybody, I think,
what
you got some,
what Public
and you got
Works
a place that
normally
needs bidding
cut
out as
and
well.
what Recs normally cut.
That's what I'm saying. So we would like to get some from both of y'all, what needs to be bidded out. So maybe
So you want to put something in a play too to bid out?
Central and Bagley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If y'all don't mind, bring us something so we could see what we could get together.
So right now, we're on informational.
That's exactly
We're on
right.
If
information.
we
All
didn't
right.
have any prices, we couldn't send anything to finance.
Right, we're on informational. So we're kind of building up,
Yeah,
but,
preparation.
yeah, but that field itself is starting September the 25th. Someone's going to have a plan this year to maintain that field for
Correct.
the rest of the year.
Correct.
Have to.
And that should be taken care of, hopefully by next committee, we'll have that.
Yes.
It could be the school might end up in this mix somewhere, I don't know where, but
That's right.
They know how to cut football fields, so. Okay.
My question is, now, this stone bridge, that includes the walking trail all the way back up to Elk 2?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
of that is considered?
Phase 1, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Stone on the walking trail.
Because there's a lot of weed eating and stuff like that that needs to be done back in that area.
Good size area.
So we're
Thank
not
you.
voting on this, it's just information?
Yes, that's
So
correct.
We're going to get a list of all the areas that are currently being mowed, who they've been mowed by, and then maybe identify what we would bid out.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to also know the acreage, if it's possible. That's not a problem for those properties.
Well, you get to acreage pretty close out there at the soccer complex.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about the rest of it now, because the acreage,
Property data.
Yeah, that's the easiest way, yeah.
that's,
Out of two.
The soccer complex is 14.23 acres.
yeah. Minus the field, whatever they'd be mowing, yeah.
That's just the whole piece of property.
And the note, we used to have trustees help on this, and we haven't had them for a long time, and we don't know ever in the future we'll get them back, especially with the COVID coming back right now. So that was something that helped us out in the past. But now we knew years ago, and we spoke it right there today, that when 3 of us were on the board and we took on Camp Blunt, we knew years ago that we were going to get to this point as
Well,
far as.
That is correct.
And at that point, it was put on rec specifically.
Right.
So.
Yeah, what happened on that was, for the ones that he wasn't here then, Mr. Thompson, in order to, most of us has heard this in finance, in order to have Camp Blunt even to come into existence, the state of Tennessee came to us. I don't know what his name was. I remember what it looked like, though. Stood right close there. They came to us and said, someone has to sign documents to be responsible for maintaining that, because that's a historic site. It has to be maintained properly. In order for us to begin to get all these state grants and all we've got, which have been, I don't know, billions of dollars out there, I don't know how much, we had to agree to maintain it. The city did, because nobody else is going to. So we did that through the rec department. That's the only department we had really to go through the rec department. And it was $40-something thousand a year was the estimate we had on that. We had to have an estimate, but now that $40-something thousand a year don't mean that's what it's going to cost. It's just that we had in case we had to hire another employee, something along that line, to cover ourselves. So that's how it all got started. Is we've got a signed document with the state of Tennessee saying that we will maintain that property.
Yes, sir.
And it probably says we'll maintain it properly, because it is a historic site. That's not just a state site, in a way it's state funded, but it kind of comes in under federal too, because so many people will be coming in, to look at it and everything. Then we got into the unofficial part of it, and when we started talking about getting the hotel motel tax, which we had to go through the state legislature to get it because the county already had it. So we had to go through the state in order to get that. And City Administrator Scott Collins guided us through all that. The ideal, we didn't have to say what was going to use it for except tourism, that's all. We had to say it was going to use every dime of that for tourism. County don't have to, because they was into it up front, but we have to use it for tourism. We can't use any of that hotel motel tax for anything but tourism. So what our idea was, Camp Blunt is tourism.
Yes, sir.
If we got anything at all in the city, it's tourism, it's Camp Blunt, because it draws people in it will be drawing people in, it already is from other areas. So the ideal was that part of it on Camp Blunt, the ideal was the maintaining part of it come out of tourism instead of the rec department was ideal. That was a concept we had in mind, because it is tourism. But there's nothing in writing anywhere that says that that's what it's got to happen. But that was the ideal, though. And that's the reason I threw out in finance that the ideal all along was to use some of that tourism funded to maintain Camp Blunt, because it was kind of all tied together as we went through that. As far as I know, there's nothing in writing that says it's got to be that way, though. So that's kind of the history on that.
Well, I'm glad it's on the agenda today. I know we've discussed for, I guess, 2.5 years, we've talked about this in committee. And we've talked about the fact that we'll either eventually have to hire people to help with this or contract out. And I kind of wanted to know the board's opinion on that. My opinion was, if we contract it out, it'll save us in benefits, buying equipment, storing equipment, replacing equipment, that kind of thing. And I kind of wanted to know how y'all felt about that versus hiring more employees to work for the city.
Well, we talked about this 5 months ago, or what? The first conversation you and I had this in it.
Yes, sir.
We talked about this at that time, so.
So does most of the board agree that
option.
contracting out is a good route to go?
Some of the parks.
I just want to
Some
say
of the
On
parks.
some of, not all the parks, we're just saying some of the stuff. That's why I said it's got to get to committee where we need to see everything, and we'll come up to y'all, the full board, if y'all agree on that.
Yeah, begin to see some dollars.
Yeah, you need to see dollars because
Yeah.
it may be, and I think maybe it was touched on a little bit at one time, contracting out, but the price was so.
Oh, it was outrageous.
But that was for
That was
every
every-
acre of land that the rec center
Yep.
had.
Yeah,
that was
We don't
outrageous.
need that.
no, that was a figure off the top of somebody's head, I think, so.
But you would have to look at the estimate or the, what the cost would be to see, would we be better off bringing in 3 more employees for what it's going to cost us to bid the grass out?
Yes, ma'am.
And, you could use them in a lot of different ways in the off-season of the grass.
Correct.
Where, you would save in the benefits and everything, but you could also use them all year. So I don't see that we can make any kind of decision without that on the grass part.
That's a
Well,
good point.
yeah, this would be a bad time of year to try to, at the end of the
About
season,
the,
you couldn't get anybody to bid it anyway.
Correct.
Good point.
You going into next year, yeah, you can get some people lined up. And the thing about that is, whoever would bid it, if we went that route, they would have to be a big enough company that they had the insurance and everything.
Correct.
That's right. Exactly. All right, so the next thing on this, the soccer complex equipment, what's the board's thoughts?
Well, that's something that we didn't get the bids, we didn't get them in time, so, and we've not discussed in our committee of what we wanted to bring forward to y'all as well.
Exactly. I was told yesterday that, after our meeting Tuesday, I was told that I needed to get the numbers. I've been working with Ryan to get them. We all know Ryan's gone. But Ryan came back in yesterday, so we were going to work on it yesterday, but then I got an email saying that it was due Tuesday evening, which we thought we had a little bit of time to put it together. That's why if you read the email, that's what it says. So we just kind of rushed it yesterday. I called Ryan, had him on speakerphone. We called around and tried to get it squared away, so that I guess we could have it today for you guys, for the board. And so that right there's going to be pushed. And if you read that email, that's what I said. Kind of like I thought we had more time to put it together.
I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
How much of this equipment do we have now?
We have a lot of stuff that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Will it be utilized any, or are we going for all new?
Right now, the equipment that we have now, the goals and stuff that we do have, they're all down at the other field at Don Davison. I believe that the high school has another set of goals somewhere, and I guess they're older. And what the plan was, they were going to try to bring their newer goals up. We're going to try to get new nets, but we haven't had another conversation with them about that, as well as the backstops and nets. We don't have that up there at all right now to keep that ball in play, keep it from going anywhere we need. Game nets, right now the nets down at the soccer field, if you go down there and look at them, they have their game nets are in bad shape. I talked to one of the coaches, she said someone just came and cut the nets all the way up the back, and they zip tied them back, and they did what they had to do to try to put them back together. They were supposed to be trying to get some more this year. Field marker kit.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you go on with that, back up just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
So any of that equipment for number 1 and 2, will it be brought to the new field? Will it be utilized for both?
No, ma'am.
So these prices stand there?
Yes, ma'am. Everything we have right now is going to be stuff that's going to be up there at that new complex. It won't be moved back and forth or anything. We do have the actual real mower that's needed to do the field. We have it, but it's been on The high school has been using it for the last 3-4 years or something like that for their football field. So we do have it. It's just a process of being able to go back and forth with it and getting it done, or having a professional come in and take care of it. But a lot of those things, all the items that we have on this list right here that we need are items that will be new and will be utilized a lot of times just for that soccer complex, except for the roller. The roller will be, if we get a roller, which is not on here, which Ryan put a roller on there, and I just didn't put it on there because I talked to the gentleman that was up there, and he said that it's very slim that they use a roller on a soccer field. But when talking to Ryan, Ryan's saying, yes, we need to keep that field level when it rains or whatever the case may be. So that right there could be utilized on the soccer field as well as the baseball fields, to keep those baseball fields and those grasses level as well. Which that right there is nothing but like, I think it was like $1,500 or something like that. But everything that we have on this list right now will be items that will be used just at the soccer complex.
And the metal container is the storage?
Yes, ma'am.
Storage.
So on the goals, does that 7,000 include the large goal for the high school and smaller goals for smaller teams, age-wise?
That goal right there is just the high school goals. That's just that high school goal.
So that's two. That's just
two. The 3,500 apiece. That's just for 2 goals.
So that field can be split up into 4 fields.
Several
fields.
Yeah, see, that's the reason why we adjusted it earlier in the year to the bigger field, because the original was just like one small field.
Yeah.
And we adjusted to the bigger so that they could break it down and have multiple games.
Yeah.
So this is not all the equipment we'll end up needing.
No, and I think the reason we have, and that's what I'm saying, I guess the next committee meeting we'll bring forward, I guess Tanya and I will bring together exactly, instead of bringing just little things that we need to get started, like the back nets we don't need right now, stuff like this. So what we're going to do is get together, get some more prices, get some more bids, and bring to y'all the little goals we can set to the side when they play, because those little goals are just PVC pipe and just little inexpensive nets. They don't need the bigger goals.
They're not big.
No, sir. They're not at all. No.
The ones we have now were made. The ones we have now, Ray and them made.
This is a major part.
This is the major part. That's what I'm saying. The biggest items that we're going to need to get this when the soccer field does open up September the 26th or whatever, is the main goals and 2 benches and then the net. So we're going to come to y'all next meeting.
But you won't acted on this meeting.
Well, no, sir. We can't act on it right now.
This right here can't be acted on. Okay. This is information.
This was information.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, I got the email and.
Okay.
Okay, I don't see any benches in this list here.
It was on a second email that I got from Mr. Howe.
Okay.
And it was just portable, no back benches. And they were for $350 a piece. So $700.
Okay.
I'm just blown away. When all of this started with this Dyken Park, it was a place for children to play. It was not a high school park. It was not a school property. All of this, and I see this as a big black hole. And this all came up on this board when this field went way over project. See, it went over $563,000 on this project. And at that time I expressed, this is a big black hole. We don't have bathrooms. We don't have a parking lot. We have a gravel parking lot that's very small, that's not going to handle the type crowds that are, could possibly come to a competition field. And we've already started. This is over $20,000, just these few items, and we don't even have possession of the field. This was not the purpose of this park. It was for kids to play.
I don't think that that's totally true. It was discussed that it would be a plan that would go forward to add those things that you're talking about now, because that's down the road. That's hopefully that's what the 3 to 5 year plan is going to entail is that stuff that you're talking about. Because I believe that was brought out, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's the way I see it too,
Yeah.
just being able to, as we have money, to continue to
Start
improve
and
the-
then add to.
Right, the
Yeah.
park.
Because if we don't start now, that's exactly right. If we don't start now, it's going to hit us all at one time. That's why I said, we'll come up with a couple of things, if y'all don't mind, for the next meeting.
Well, that's
to
how I
bring
understood
forward.
it, that it would be added on
It will,
as we
just little
had
things at
it,
a
like
time.
Alderman.
We're gonna
Can't say Alderman,
piecemeal
Alderman.
this, is that what we're just?
That's
gonna
how I
add a
understood
couple
it.
of things? Because adding a fire truck, adding an assistant chief, I mean, we've talked about a lot of big dollar things here. And, you know, we went through budget with a lot of it, and I just see this as a big black hole.
Well, that was part of it to even get the field.
Yeah. So what part of it is the school going to play? Do we not know that? I mean, if they're going to use it as a high school game field, or do they have some skin in the game here?
We were talking to the high school, but it's kind of stalled with them right now. It's kind of stalled with them right now.
Well, there's an agreement we're working on between.
It is an agreement, and the agreement has stalled.
I want to tell you the word stalled. I think it's in place. They've got it in their hands. They're looking at a couple of things, but yes. To answer your question, just like the maintenance with baseball and softball, yeah, they would be participating in that too. So
I think so, yeah, because when we talked to them, that right there was in the, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Going back and forth, trying to see what worked out for us. We haven't spoken again about the contract in about a week or two, something like that, but it's still in their hands. We have it moving forward, as well as the soccer complex. When I went up there, I talked to the gentleman that was up there, and my mind goes towards different things, and I also asked the gentleman about the handicapped parking, where if you're a driver, you get out of your car, you're right there in grass. You know, on the opposite side, you know, if you're getting your kids out, you're right there in grass. So the pad right there is not big enough. Right to the left of that, there's a patch of grass, and then we have a thing of concrete that's supposed to be for 2 porta potties, but it's right there in the entrance. So if you're walking in, you're smelling the porta potties. So I think there's going to be a little bit more that we're going to have to do up there to make it a amazing place that we want it to be. Just going up there, just looking at things that I see. You know, I have a 4-year-old, and sometimes I put her in a walker and in a stroller, and being a mom coming out of that parking lot in a stroller on rocks is going to be an issue. So it's just a lot of things that it's going to take us a little bit to get things where this is actually a place that people feel comfortable coming to and it being feasible, as well as I talked to them about putting gravel on the opposite side of this little hump we have, where to make the parking lot on the opposite side a little bit bigger so we can park buses, because if we're going to have high school games up there, they're going to bring in school buses. And so where we're going to park buses at. So there's a lot that's going to go into it, but I think we can absolutely do it.
Well, in the school's defense, I'd like to say, in the past, and somewhat, they have done some in-kind, if you will, work. They do this and we do that.
Mm-hmm.
They take care of this, they pay for that, we pay for this. So they have contributed some.
Absolutely.
They spend a lot of money on that Davis
Yes,
field.
they sure have.
Yeah, especially on the baseball field, and they're continuing, and as well as on soccer, they're just like, hey, you know, what can we do? And that's what we're working with, like, hey, we can do this, you guys do that, as well as that's why I know about the extra goals they have, and it could, if those goals that they have, the second set of goals they have, if they're in great shape, we can bring the other ones up, they can bring the other ones down, and that can save us a lot of money, at least that $7,000 on goals. You know, all we have to worry about is just nets, and probably replacing nets every 2 years or something like that. So it's a great thing that we can do. We just have to, you know, continue our agreement with them.
Alderman Hartman, I did have the opportunity to speak with Eric Jones yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They're to let you know, they're willing to be part of it. They really are. And I will have another conversation with him here soon.
Yeah, and I think we should partner with the schools.
Yeah.
Partner, you know.
Yes.
If they're going to use it, then, you know, let's partner, let's have it set. This is something, another park area that has been added to Parks and Recs, which is added to your workload, you know, but your staff hasn't increased. So if we could get, you know, some assistance from the school on helping with these bills, because we've mentioned here that we're going to have a professional maintain that field. It can't just be everybody that's got an extra mower go mow, you
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
that type thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So building a partnership with them, I think is great. I think Mr. Hopkins is, wonderful for the school and willing to work with us on this, but we need to take into consideration when we're spending, how can we share this?
Yeah, me talking to Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Jones, they have been nothing but willing to give and bend over backwards for us for whatever we want. And Mr. Hopkins actually said, like, hey, we need you guys. We need your fields. So whatever we need to do, however you want it done, let's work on it, let's get it done. So I have had nothing but great things or great conversations with both of those gentlemen.
Right.
So for me, it was me and Ryan were like, let's just see what we can do with them and see how much load they can take off of us to help us out, or what we can do to go back and forth with lining the fields, teaching their coaches how to line the fields. We were working with Ray to get him to teach some of the coaches how to line the fields, as well as trying to get some of the high school gentlemen who play soccer and stuff like this, get them out of school so that before games they can line the fields. Because some of our lifeguards and some of our kids that work for us this summer were like, we'll line the fields, you just teach us how to do it. So we're absolutely, the high schools has been a great helping, and they're still trying to put in the work to help us out.
That's good. That's good that we can build that.
I think,
Go ahead.
I'd like to see Mr. Hopkins and Eric Jones at the next committee meeting, so we can all sit down and discuss this together. That's what we need to invite you to the next committee meeting next month.
Well, I invited Mr. Jones this other day because I didn't know if it would come up.
Right.
But then I learned that both sides wanted to hold off till September.
And that's what I'm saying, if that's all right for September meeting, I'd like to see him at our committee meeting.
Right. So
we can sit
I
down
don't
and
think that's
discuss
going to be a
this.
problem. So,
And the school's always been willing to help. I just want to clarify that the soccer field, though, was not built for the use, just for the school system.
Right.
So at the end of the day, if the school system wasn't using it, we would still be responsible for maintaining that field. So, I just don't want people to feel like, oh, well, the high school or the middle school uses it, so they should have to take care of it. It's still, we took it on as our responsibility. So, but they help in many ways. And
Most
I'm sure they
times,
will.
coaches want to do that cutting. I mean, they want the field to be the way they want it. So most of the time, I see the coaches doing that thing, and they want to do it.
Oh,
So-
it's manicured very well, even at the, at the baseball field.
okay. Anything else on that? You have a back-to-school bash Saturday morning.
Yes, sir. This Saturday we have the 7th. We have a back-to-school bash that we're doing for our young people. I absolutely thank everyone who has given supplies, come out and helped us out. We have more crayons than probably elementary kids in this city. And right now, I had my staff, a couple of young ladies and guys come in, concession workers, cutting up flyers that we're going to go give to the school system today, Mr. Jones, and they're going to give it out to all the kids. We did not get enough done because we needed about 100 for every single grade level, and we're going to try to give it to the county, but we didn't have enough to be cutting and paper stuff, so we did enough for the city schools. But as well as we're going to make a huge, again today and tomorrow, we're going to do it again, push it on Facebook to let people know that it's there. As well as when I'm in Walmart, I always make sure that I have flyers, or I can give them to people when I see them purchasing things, items like that. So I think we have a lot. If you come in there and look in the room, we have a lot of items in there that we can give away, as well as I believe we're going to have a lot of extra items that we can give away throughout the year. So we're happy with what we got. It's a good starting place.
And also, there was some chatter on social media I saw the other day about Kids Park and the walking trail and the lights.
Yes, sir.
And you brought up in committee the other day that a lot of the light issues are the equipment's old, ballast issues.
Yes, sir.
So we want the public to we're aware and we're working on those type of things, but that's probably going to be another thing we're going to have to address in the future. Is a lot of that architecture is old on those lighting out there around the ball fields and the walking trails at Kids Park.
Yes, sir. We every Wednesday this gentleman comes in with lighting and stuff, and he came in again yesterday, and I had him talk to Jason because it's been a while since he's been there. He's been on vacation, so he came in with Jason, and I basically sat down with them and I told them that I want to try to get a one big budget out, well, how much it costs to change everything to LED, get new lights for the parks, everything, but we need to do it in phases. And what we decided was our first phase would be the Kids Park and Stonebridge. Those will be because those are our heavily used facilities and parks. So around Kids Park right now, like everyone knows, the lights that are out there are the old lights from the square. And so when Jason went out there and looked at the ballast, went through the poles, he's just saying that those heads are so old that we need to replace the heads. The gentleman went out there and said the poles are pretty much still good. We might replace a couple of poles. A couple of poles have been knocked down, vandalism to a few of them. But if we replace those holes, those heads, it'll be a lot easier, as well as Jason can get up there and change them in and out if something's wrong with them. But we have those heads on almost all the lights that we have around. So if we change one, we need to change all of them. As well as in our facility, we have 3 different color lights in our facility. Talk to the gentleman, it's $60 per light. We have 100 lights in the facility. So it's going to be a huge undertaking for the budget. So that's the reason why we're trying to do it in different phases to make sure our parks are good, you know. So, and make sure inside the facility is good. So we're looking at it. We knew that coming in, talking to a few people, I knew that around the Kids Park and around that walking track was an issue, especially with certain things that I was hearing the issues that I was hearing. So it's been a continuing. We thought we could just fix it with Jason going up there, but also Jason saying we need a bucket truck to go up there, take those heads off, figure out different things. So we just figured instead of keep on putting a Band-Aid on it, we might as well just replace all the heads, because that's going to happen. That's going to need to be happening in the next 5 years anyways. So that's something that we are working on.
Just want the public to know we are aware of that situation.
Yes, sir. As well as SJ King, we did the lights at SJ King. We put all the lights down there on solar, so they pop on in the evening, so there's lights underneath there. We were having a little bit of vandalism down there with people pulling the wires and using them for other things and different things like that, as well as with the floods, just messing up the power and all the electricity down there, so we just put our lights on there. As well as if you go down to SJ King right now, we create a new parking situation down there, which looks great. It brightens the park up, so we're working on that park as well. So trying to get lighting, trying to get all our parks looking good. So that's where we're at.
Any other questions of Mr. Thompson? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go to planning and codes.
And I will be substitute, Christie.
Mr. Tom Batchel, substitute for the director.
So 2 items with planning and codes, and one of them that's coming up at the public hearing on August 10th is a rezoning of 615 Maple Street West, rezoning request, I should say, from a residential medium density R2 to a commercial C3 in order to allow for a funeral parlor use. I prepared a zoning impact review, and hopefully it's understandable, but as I was thinking about it, I think that at the meeting as well, as I'll prepare a aerial map of to show what the zoning is, and also just a bigger view of where the potential traffic pattern.
Was he planning to come this morning to address the parking and?
No, he will be at the hearing for that.
Okay, so he'll be at the hearing. I wasn't sure
Yes.
if he was going to come this morning and talk about that or just talk about it then. Okay.
Yes.
And we've already voted to have that public hearing, so that's already scheduled for our board meeting next Tuesday. So.
Yes, sir. And then for the second item is the visitor signs. And this is at Stonebridge Park of the visitor center there is not in use. And Christie spoke with the Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber would prefer that the Chamber office be the center, or the visitor center, because they have all the documents there, and they're there all the time, during the normal, regular business hours. So then it's a matter of decision of taking down the visitor signs. The sign off of the cabin at Stonebridge Park, where it says Visitor Center, and then also on highway signs. And I think at when we were working on the wayfinding signs, we were under the impression that TDOT that we had to have authorization to put up the wayfinding signs, but what TDOT informed our department was that the city can actually enforce within the right-of-way as well. So it may be that with the signs that, the visitor signs that need to be removed off of the highway signs, that we could just notify TDOT that that's our intention of doing. And so now it's just picking a group, and I think it's probably going to be Eddie.
Any questions?
I know there's a couple of the visitor center signs. One is over here at the corner, the main intersection over here. There's one.
Coming north.
Yep, north. And then there's one on the south side of the bridge. There's also one inside the park, one of the blue signs.
Yes.
So Eddie, is that something that you will take down or?
Yes, ma'am, that's what we're going to do.
Okay. And then the big wooden visitor center sign there by the cabin.
Yes.
We get it all.
Board good with that? Thank you for doing this impact, because this hasn't been done before. And the times that I've been on the board, and it's very informational and gives exact context. Because in the past, normally citizens would do that, concerned citizens would do that, but this is very information-oriented before that public hearing.
And I think that I probably should have put the maps actually in there, because as I was thinking about it, I just basically did side by side, said, okay, here's what's allowed in a R2 use, C3 use, and then discussing different impact, which might not be clear, because I'm a more visual person, and it's harder to, so I know, and actually everybody is more visual. So sometimes it's hard to understand, okay, well, what's actually the potential negative aspects of it. But I think with the map, it's a little bit easier to see, because in that area, that neighborhood, I think I wrote in that review that the area is peppered with islands of commercial zones, whereas Mr. Carmichael's request is actually adjacent to another one, another commercial. It's not creating another island.
What were these to call spot zoning, which is not allowed in Tennessee?
Well, the funny thing is that spot zoning is rezoning request, but yes.
When I say spot zone, right now it has to be contiguous to something for the request, as opposed to, we just decided in the middle of a residential, we want to make a parcel commercial.
Yes.
Which Tennessee does not allow. So.
And the other aspect too, I mean, and I'm not minimizing the tenants that live in there. Rental properties are a business as well. And I don't think it's viewed that way. I think it's viewed as just being residential. But the most important part is just how to mitigate for the two different types of competing uses, residential and commercial. So.
Sure. Anybody have any questions?
I've got one. Tom, do you want to speak to this $500,000 home grant we received? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So the $500,000 home grant the city received was awarded, and the state notified the city that we received it. Now, as far as the individuals, we don't know who actually received it in the city, because there were a number of applicants, and the applicants are the ones that prepare the applications. I mean, it's not the city that does that for them. On August 12th, there is a webinar workshop session for this grant that Christy and I will be attending in order to how to manage the grant.
Well, this literature says August 5th, so it'll be August 12th.
Well, they changed it because they realized, I believe the mayor is the one that forwarded the email, that this is the governor's conference time going on. And so they pushed it, and they didn't realize that it was the same time.
So really, this grant is through the city in a way, but we're not hands-on.
No,
we're not hands-on with this.
No. Yeah, right.
That's just handled through some other.
People already, when they when they put it in, the people that already applied, we applied for it.
Yes.
But the benefit for the people, they've already done their paperwork and everything, and we're here to help facilitate.
And it's not a match. We don't, the city doesn't put anything into it.
No.
It's just,
It is very similar to the process how Habitat for Humanity
Yeah.
Requires that the person that's purchasing the home works on that. And then this is the same process, maybe not exactly the same, but so.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Baxter? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, go to IT. Bring Zach in from the back.
Good morning, y'all.
Morning. Morning.
So I have 3 actual items this time, so a report. These 3 items, they're all going to work together for our backup solution for our computers that the employees use. The first item on this is adding additional seats to our Veeam subscription. So Veeam is the backup software that we use for backing up all our computers currently. When we purchased this back in 2020, the subscription came with 10 instances. An instance, the best way to describe it is any of my servers, that takes up one whole instance. One of these PC workstations, they'll take 1/3 of one instance. So we added it up, and if we just double our current 10 to 20, that gives us enough to back up every machine in the city. So that's why we're requesting to have our instances double to 20, so that we'll have enough instances to reliably have every machine backed up and to roll them back if we need to, if any changes were made. The price is $16.94. This is for a year and 9 months. We did it like this so that it would align with our current subscription and we could just renew them at the same time. Our current subscription will end in April of 2023.
Okay, and we discussed this in finance, I'm sure, in committee, so is everybody okay with the first item? Take it Tuesday? Okay. And then second item, we had cloud storage, $1,550.
Yes, sir. So it's general practice to have your PC backups in 3 locations. You have it on site, you have it offline so that ransomware, if it's currently encrypting everything, you have something that's not attached that can currently get wrote to. And third is off-site completely, so anticipation that this whole building will get destroyed. We can still grab backups and get everyone going again in a disaster recovery situation.
And that's 10 terabytes? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
From what I remember from the other day for that, so.
And the cost is it's 10 terabytes. It's $10 per terabyte per month. And they said there's a $350 setup fee, so we're looking at $1,550 first year, $1,200 every year after that.
So at this moment, is anything backed up in the cloud?
No, not in the cloud. Right now, we're working off of offline and on-site.
Okay. Everybody okay with item number 2?
Ma'am.
Now, this was the one, you weren't there the other day, I wanted to look, so on this last one for $7,332.86, the local data storage.
Yes. So this is for an additional NAS. We have a NAS right now. Jerry bought that back in 2015 for $14,090. This was bought back when EMC was its own company before it was bought out by Dell. So we can't really get support on it anymore. And a couple other things with it. We can't get new hard drives for it. We can only find them from third parties refurbished. So we don't get any kind of warranty with these anymore in case one were to go out and fail. And also, this new NAS would be able to hold bigger capacity drives. They're 9 times bigger. So we're maxed at 900 gigs. This new NAS would have 8 terabyte drives. So much bigger storage. We're at the max right now. I actually checked our NAS this morning. So we have 9,000 gigabytes total. We're at 300 right now.
Are those solid state drives?
Hard drives. Solid
state's part of the hard. I mean, that's now the new version of
correct.
The better encryption and everything for this it lasts longer. It's the preferred thing is solid state.
It is. Now, if we were going the solid state route, we'd be looking at 5-6 times this cost
Okay.
easily.
Gotcha, okay. All right. Is the board okay with this?
I am.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right. As was mentioned by the vice mayor today, this stuff changes quickly in the digital world. While you're still up here, this is under administration, but the fire alarm system for the municipal building.
Yes.
We spoke the other day that a year or a couple years ago, our former IT director kind of patched our system, which is a pretty old system, keeping it going, but we've had trouble lately with it sending false alarm.
So like last year when we were working on this, we were calling around fire alarm companies and it's like, well, what kind of board do you have? It's like, oh, it's this, and they'd laugh at us, be like, we haven't supported that in years, and so we'd have to hope we find someone who just had replacement parts on site that we could get from them, and just hope that what we replace would get it to work again. And now it's just we're stuck in a situation that we just need to get a whole new system. And we had D&H come out. They quoted us, it's going to be $23,000 to have that. And that replaces everything, new smoke detectors, not just the panel itself.
But now, Stacy, you mentioned we'll have to go to bid on that.
Absolutely.
So,
It would have to be sealed.
Sealed bid, so, correct. So, okay, well, I just wanted to give some context while you're up here.
No problem.
So, anything else, Mr. Zach? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll go to finance, Ms. Roselle. Elaine Middleton came with Mr. Eric Reynolds from the Industrial Board the other day to finance, to present Copperwell a pilot agreement for 5 years.
All right, yes, sir. Copperwell is expanding, and they have requested a 5-year abatement on just the real property there. They are not asking for anything on their personal property that'll be going into that building there.
And we used to do 10 years, so 5 years even better for us. It's quicker for us to maximize.
Quicker for us to get our money.
Our tax dollars out of it, that's correct. So, is everybody good with this going forward?
I am.
Okay. Next, Miss Linda Williams sent a letter, Veterans Organization Flag Project for a project of placing flags around the community at a total cost of $3,000, and she's asking the city and the county to consider splitting the cost of $1,500
Yes, sir.
on that item. Everybody okay with taking that?
I'm good with that.
I'm good with it.
All right. You want to give us other financial update, Ms. Roselle?
The only other financial update as of right now is, I have actually spoken on this before, we ended our year for fiscal year 21, our local option sales tax at just over 3.1 million. And that is about $350,000 to $400,000 over our previous record, which prior to our highest year was just under 2.7 million. So, and then as another side note, we actually ended up on our local option sales tax. We did meet our budget on that this year, which was not expected, but we did end up meeting the local option sales tax budget for the year. So, other than that, we're in year-end process, running wide open.
So on the fire alarm system, do we need to, as the board, make a motion to?
Basically, what you would be doing is giving us the ability to proceed with
Going to bid?
going to bid and all that, because of, obviously, it would be an unbudgeted expense, so it would domino effect into eventually a budget amendment.
Is the board okay with that? I mean, it's not really a, we're at the point where it's not going to get fixed any faster, what we currently got, or any.
It did. I got
any other way.
either 6 or 8 phone calls about in a 30-minute period the other night, because the fire alarm just kept going off, even with us having fire staff here going, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing going on, but it kept glitching out and calling all of us who are on the list over and over.
So that goes to employees, is that rolled in?
It goes to, currently it is the city administrator and myself, I believe, are the only housed employees in-house employees who received that call. You know, they like to have more than one because they do like to get key holders en route, and we do have the box outside for the fire department to get to a key. But on the off chance that the city administrator is not available, then I am the second contact.
Whatever's quickest to the building. It's the way it normally works. You know, it's closest, so. Okay, now I'm going to jump in a little bit. So while you're still up here, you talk about the Camp Blunt electrical improvement.
Okay, yes. If you remember, we received $500,000 back in 2018, I believe, for the governor's budget to be used at Camp Blunt. We used a great deal of that, in fact, the majority of it with what you see out there right now, but there is still currently about $50,000 sitting in that account. And what they're looking to do now is put in lighting at the flags and the signs, I believe. So I guess it's kind of for an informational purpose type thing for the board. It will eventually come back in a budget amendment for us to spend that money, but it came in just under $20,000, so we do not have to do sealed bids or anything like that.
Okay.
But that is just spending that portion and kind of getting the board's blessing to go ahead and spend that portion of that money on this lighting project.
We're okay with that. Yeah, they need some lighting out there.
And then I know eventually, from what I understand, the next phase that they will be looking to do, the Camp Blunt Historical Site, is kind of who heads this up. It's the city's money, but they kind of spearhead that, would be to light the statue.
That's, yeah, exactly. That's
But
right.
this is just to light the flags and the front main sign.
Well, it's dark out there. Really, it's kind of a nice reminder for people to realize that, you know, when it's pitch dark black, our parks are supposed to be closed. Even though whether there's a gate that closes or not, and there's something that says you can't go out to Camp Blunt at midnight or whatever, but it's preferred that you don't. But it is a dark right there, especially with the old Taco Bell not in business anymore, and Long John's turns their lights off about 8 or 9 or something, so. Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Roselle?
Not a question for Ms. Roselle, but for what you just touched on. At our parks, do we have signs? I can't recall. Like close at dark?
I know most they do.
Okay.
Most they do, but
a lot of people utilize that to go eat at the park at their dinner breaks and
I've
stuff.
seen in the past.
yeah, we used to
but
have
there is
an
some
issue
plus
at Don Davidson. When,
And I think they still do that at night. They go eat, I don't know if anybody from Frito-Lay actually drives over there, but I mean, there's still people that eat out there
I
at
think the
night.
police check down there, but it's a little tougher at Stonebridge because there's lighting. So people kind of feel like, hey, I can go down here at any point at night. So, but it really is technically closed when it's dark. So, before we speak about this severance agreement, I only had one other item. I had sent an email to the board recently about an reappointment of the Board of Appeals, Dean Bevel's. Is everybody okay? We take that to Tuesday. So that leaves the last item, because this went to the last minute last night. Mr. Hill has supplied in front of you a proposed agreement for Mr. Scott Collins. Hopefully you've had time to look over it while we've been here today. Mr. Hill, will you speak to it, please?
Sure. I guess about 2 weeks ago now, I was contacted by an attorney on behalf of Mr. Collins, who proposed that Mr. Collins would be willing to resign his position if, certain payouts were made to him. Of course, under his contract, if he were terminated, he was entitled to one thing if it was for cause, or another thing if it weren't for cause. And fundamentally, we had a dispute at that point about a potential firing being with or without cause and what he was entitled to. So basically, over the last 2 weeks, I've worked with Mr. Collins' attorney to try to put together, I guess, the most favorable to the city plan I could for the board's consideration that Mr. Collins would be willing to enter into. So I had a version at finance earlier in the week. And at that point, we were still in discussions over a few provisions in it. So there are some slight modifications. The financial parts of this are all the same. We're still, if this were accepted by the board, it would still involve a 3-month salary payment, payment of 272 hours of accrued vacation, which is 7 weeks minus 1 day that he had donated already, and reimbursement of COBRA payments for up to 6 months or until he got insurance in another location. And then on that particular point, I understand there's some sort of COVID relief benefit available that through the month of September that pays COBRA benefits. So, we would need to figure out how he needs to invoke that, basically. So hopefully he would not have to pay anything for September, and potentially he would be employed somewhere else before the 6-month period, so that we're not paying the full 6 months of insurance payments here. The one provision that is changed from the version I had on Tuesday, for those of you who had that version, there was language in the earlier version that Mr. Collins would not make disparaging remarks about the city. They asked to have that made mutual, and I just didn't see how it was feasible to extend that to all the elected officials, even potentially all the employees. So we were kind of at an impasse on that, and basically all we came up with to have what we hope is a last version to present for the board's consideration is just to take that part out, but leave in the part about assisting others that might have a claim against the city. This is hopefully the last and final version for the board's consideration. So I guess what my proposal would be on Tuesday night to place on the agenda, having the board consider whether to accept this proposal and have the mayor enter into it on behalf of the city. And then I would say, let's also put as a next item on the agenda, considering a motion to terminate, so that if the board does not approve this agreement, we could then move to the next item. But I think it would make sense to consider this first. And if this were adopted, then it would obviously render the other matter meetings.
Could you speak to terminate for cause? Is that just 1 month, no vacation, no insurance? Can you speak to the
1 month in benefits?
So, okay, on that, what Jeff just said, Mr. Alder, could you define just cause and cause for us, please? Because that's...
And I don't think I have a copy of Mr. Collins' contract with me, but it specifically refers to the definition of cause that is in the personnel policy that was in existence when the old personnel policy, when we were still doing some cause hearings and cause terminations, as opposed to the new personnel policy. Ultimately that would have been for, I guess, a court to decide whether cause existed or not using that standard, but it was basically cause constituted, being unable to do the job for some reason. as opposed to, just, doing a fine job and we wanted to do something else.
And note in particular, any other reason determined by the board in that little section right there.
Vice Mayor Bryant has a copy of Mr. Collins' contract. It says, employees of Collins Services may be terminated by the city for just cause, which is more fully defined as reasons for dismissal in section 7K of the personnel policy of the city, and any other reason as determined by the board upon 4 affirmative votes for termination. And then there is a provision in here that would have permitted Mr. Collins to have the matter reviewed by the board and like through an appeal request. Severance pay for a just cause termination is 1 month's pay and benefits. For any other reason was effectively 6 months pay and benefits.
Discussion?
I'm for moving this agreement on to consider. The board can make a decision Tuesday night on any way we want to go.
I am as well.
Moving on, acting on it. And if it doesn't pass, I'm for moving on to the second option. I feel like this is a just, and I think this has worked out as best it can be worked out for the benefit of the city. I applaud our city administrator. He's put a lot of time into this. And his time has been to protect the city in this whole process, and I appreciate that. And I'm for moving it on to act on it. Tuesday night, be done with it. Move on. That's what I'm for.
You applaud the city administrator or the city attorney?
I'm sorry, city attorney. I apologize, Mr. City Attorney.
I think we all
Thank you for that correction. It needed to be made. It needed to be made.
Well, I do, and I'm for moving forward to see what happens, but I was want to ask our attorney something. Are we setting a presence? This is, I guess, a good question on my side. Are we setting a presence during evaluation for anybody that's in this position now?
Can I?
I just want to clarify.
This contract gives, this contract gives the city administrator an option to resign. Mm-hmm. And the way that can I speak to this or not? Sure. As long as I'm careful.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm okay, I speak to it. You don't mind?
Yeah, I know.
And it does give the city administrator an option to resign. Once that option came to us at the last meeting, almost the last minute, it blocked us from doing anything. Because if we had not backed up, and in my opinion now, but now the attorney's sitting here, if we had not backed up and gave ourselves time to look at this request, we would in effect been blocking the city administrator for an option he has in his contract. Of course, when that hit, when we got that, we could not discuss it. We couldn't discuss anything in this. We couldn't, according to our rules. So if we had went ahead with that meeting and just pushed this aside and not even looked at it as an option, I think the city attorney would tell you that it would have put us in a bad position, right? So but I'm sorry, I just kind of interjected that because I know I'm the one that kind of threw the curveball out and shocked everybody. We didn't have any conversation. That motion I put on the floor, I had not talked to any alderman about that. Every one of them sitting right here and they'll tell you I had not talked to any alderman about that, period. The social media, I've not seen it, but I heard it on social media that we was accused of getting together beforehand, all that stuff. That's an outright barefaced lie. I told them I was an outright liar, period. Didn't happen. we've handled this thing exactly according to sunshine law. But that is, in fact, his option to request this. It is there. So, and the only reason I kind of jumped in front of the city attorney a little bit on that was that I know that the way that was brought forward was a shock to everybody. But I'm just saying that's the reason I brought that the way I did. It should have been a shock because we did not discuss that in any way whatsoever. And every alderman sit here and tell you that. There's no problem about that. That social media stuff is put on there with a bare-faced, dog-eared lie.
And I guess what I would say in response to Alderman Martinez's question is, I'm always sensitive to something establishing a precedent. People in the city probably get sick of hearing me say, oh, we can't do that because it would create a precedent that somebody might use in the future. So I'm certainly sensitive to that. In this particular situation, Mr. Collins had an attorney. The attorney made no bones about the fact that he intended to sue the city if we attempted to cause or to terminate Mr. Collins with cause. So we weren't looking at a theoretical lawsuit. I mean, we were looking at a fairly certain lawsuit. I think the deal that we've worked out here is probably no more expensive on the city than just the cost of defending that lawsuit, essentially. And, I, of course, as you all know, I have a private law practice on the side, and I see this in practice every day where, lawsuits get settled not because one person thinks he owes the other person money, but because of the cost of litigation and just time and resources that go into that. So, that was my perspective on this, is that, are we creating a precedent? You could certainly, maybe make that argument that we are, but we also have the reality that we have a lawsuit on the horizon if we didn't look into handling the matter this way. And I think if the board does elect to enter into this agreement, that would be a reasonable thing to do, considering the circumstances here.
If this were to pass, if it goes to the Tuesday night, if it does, if this were to pass Tuesday night, is that it? That would end the employment.
Certainly should. Oh yeah, yes.
Tuesday night.
By,
Okay.
I guess mechanically, my view on this is that Mr. Collins would sign this agreement, before the meeting on Tuesday night, and then if the board approved entering into it, then it would become an effective agreement, and by entering into the agreement, that that's his term, his resignation.
And I would think that there's something that's not on the agenda, but it's related to this, so it can be, I'm sure. I would think that also after we take action, whichever we go on this, there should be something on the agenda to appoint an interim city administrator, because what the charter, this is where we get back to the charter. Is it okay to speak to this, or you won't speak to it?
Go ahead.
Because according to the charter, what the charter says is, the only reason we've even got an assistant city administrator now is because the charter says you've got to have one. It's not a paying position. They don't get anything extra for being the assistant city administrator. But we have one. We have one that's been voted on. But that being said, that only covers temporary absences. It does not cover a long-term interim situation. So it's our responsibility as a board to appoint someone in the interim time period, whatever it might be, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it might be. It's our responsibility as a board to actually vote on and appoint someone in that position. it doesn't automatically mean that the assistant automatically goes into that position. There has to be a vote in between that process to appoint someone to that position. So I would think that should be on the agenda. That should be on the agenda Tuesday night.
Is that something that we need to contact MTask and ask?
It's in the charter. Doesn't make any difference what MTask says, it's what the charter says. MTask you can contact MTask if you want to, but MTask has to be fine, but I think our city attorney, you have to keep straight on this administrative attorney, but I think our city attorney can definitely relate to us his opinion on how we go about doing that process, and I don't think we need MTask to do it, but I don't care if you.
I'm saying do they have city administrators that they could send us to get us through?
Oh, well, we could contact them about that.
Yeah.
I thought you mean that we need MTask to handle.
No.
No, we don't. We can handle this ourselves. But yeah, once you could, but what's going to happen with that right there is this. If we don't go ahead and appoint someone, it's going to delay. It's just going to delay. And I don't know. I think we should act on it Tuesday night. I mean, that's my opinion.
The last time.
That's up to the rest of the board, though.
The last time was a different person, and it was before Mr. Collins came, and there was a different person it was a former financial director, was the assistant city administrator. And at that point, we did the same thing. She was kind of the interim at that time. So there has been some precedent in the past on how we've done it in between while we search for a new one for day-to-day operations purposes. So my comment would be that I suggest that I'm for moving this to Tuesday, but that this right here, unless Mr. Hill finds a typo where it's like this is the language we vote on Tuesday. I don't think there should be any more like last minute something comes from his attorney or anything like this is the language. I think we've been good enough, with that side to.
And I will say, I mean, I had a call from Mr. McKenzie at home last night, and he indicated that this version was agreeable to Mr. Collins. So I don't anticipate him coming back and saying, I want to change something now, but I guess stranger things have happened. But I anticipate this being the final version.
I just want to say something real quick. I mean, people threaten lawsuits all the time, and to me, this is the city's money. This is business. This is nothing personal against Mr. Collins with me, but he's going to have to pay court costs as well. We wouldn't have to pay those. I mean, I just feel like I think there's just cause from our reviews, and that's where I stand. I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, are we putting both proposals? Is that what I'm gathering, or we're just putting this one only? So we can put the suggestion is, the thing about it is, the suggestion is
Mr. Hill stated, both items can be on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you make the motion, you can make the motion for what you want it to be. If it gets to the point on the termination, you can make the motion for how you want it to be. So that's how that would work.
What he actually said was, I believe it, correct me if I'm wrong.
I would
put this first.
on first,
right.
And if it fails, then we move to the other. I mean, to me that makes more sense because you may have board members that would support both entering into this agreement or termination, and you may have other board members who would just support termination but not disagreement. So I think the logical, to me at least, the logical way of scheduling these on the agenda would be to take up the proposed agreement first and see if the board, the majority of the board or all the board support that, and if they don't, then you move to the next issue, which would be a motion to terminate.
And as far as my suggestion, go ahead and handle the, we're gonna do something Tuesday night one way or the other, but go ahead and handle the interim. I'm not pushing that too hard, I'm just putting that out there. If a board would rather wait and talk to MTS and see if there's someone out there that could fill that position, that would just mean that the assistant city administrator that's handling it right now will continue to handle it until that time. So that's not a make or break deal with me. I just want to get this handled and get behind us right here.
I'd like to see that on the agenda though. That way, if we are in agreement on putting somebody in that position, it can be done that night.
Well, the choice there would be, to me, the choice there would be just for the mayor to just kind of poll us. We can't really vote and see how the board wants to handle it. That's on that item. But
I don't start, Mr. Alder. I mean, would you want that item as far as an interim on the agenda Tuesday night?
I mean, I'm fine with it being, if you want to check with MTS on that and see how that is, I think we already have assistant administrator right now that he would be that interim person until, if Donna wanted to check with that on MTS, I'm kind of like Danny. I think that's in place right now where he would do that until we did that again.
Well, let's ask him. Let's ask him if he's willing to do that. That's what would be your preference? Do what? I know that, but you're the one handling it right now.
Yes, I'll be willing to do whatever I need to help the city, as I always have. Whatever I'm asked of, I'll do the best I can. No promises other than I'll do the best.
Until a decision is made to.
The decision is made.
Well, I'm okay with just taking my suggestion off the board and just move on and get past this part. Let the assistant continue to handle it, because he's going to handle it the same way. I mean, the way he's been handling it the last several days. I would say this though, going down that route, if he were to be the one that the board chose, like we done last time, because last time we did this, we chose that assistant, we should go back and pay him, go backwards and pay him in the back. In fact, we should go back and pay him in the back what he's been doing for the last couple of weeks, because we certainly should be glad that he's been in place to do it, or it wouldn't have got done. So I'm okay. I'm okay with just waiting. So
everybody okay with that?
I'm for us talking to MTS and seeing if they have somebody available that, has been a full-time city administrator. Nothing against the chief, nothing against the assistant, him, performing the job right now. I appreciate that he steps up to that. But I think he's overloaded right now. I mean, he's in the position of the fire chief, the police chief, the health officer, and now the city administrator. And talk about putting all of our eggs in one basket. We need to at least look at that option and see if there's somebody else available. We don't know how long this is going to take. If it's like the fire chief, we're still without a fire chief a year later. And I certainly hope it doesn't take us that long to hire a city administrator, but we don't know that. So that's putting so much responsibility on one person. I think that's unfair to him. I mean, I'm sure he's willing, but I just think that's totally unfair.
I'm good with that. I'm fine with it.
Well, I will state that whatever happens Tuesday, because we'll have a resolution one way or the other, that we do have an MTS representative. I have spoken to him. He is prepared to come and give us and speak to us and give us all the options. And of course, it's MTS. If we chose to go that route for the search for the next administrator, they can put together and facilitate that search, and that's no cost to us, because that's a service that's funded through the University of Tennessee for municipal governments, city governments. So that's kind of starts. So I will contact and I will bring up that. What's your point about that? So
I'm good with that too.
So unless anybody has any other business to discuss, just a couple information items. First Friday tomorrow night, 5 to 7. Big big scrimmage game tomorrow night, and it is a scrimmage between Fayetteville City High School and Lincoln County. At Lincoln County, there's no advanced sales. It's $10 a ticket. At the gate, it's a 50-50 split fundraiser. They'll just set up and do some plays. And then Saturday morning, we have a ceremony at Camp Blunt. Chief Howell, what time is that ceremony? I mean, there's a group coming in.
9 o'clock at the city limits, 8:45, so about an hour, about 10 to 11.
Yeah, we have some visitors from a historic organization coming in to Camp Blunt on, it's nothing that we're participating as a city, Camp Blunt's doing something. COVID, the Delta variant is here. We've been affected at the city level. Our HR generalist has been keeping up with the numbers. We've been growing about 30 cases a day the last 3 or 4 days. We're up to about 163 right now as of last night's numbers. So everybody be aware and careful. This is more contagious. It spreads more rapidly. Having said all that, wish everybody a good afternoon, morning, afternoon. We'll reconvene Tuesday.